Well, good morning. It's about 8:30 in the morning here at the vicarage, and the birds are out. You can hear the squirrels playing in the background. A pair of mating cardinals just flew by, and the blue jays are already at the bird feeders. You can hear him. He's angry because I'm out here disturbing his breakfast. I wanted to talk today. This is session 2 in our chat about attitudes that release blessing. And if you remember, we talked yesterday and the day before about how so many of us struggle living generous lives of being able to receive, being able to give, being able to help, and being able to sow spiritual seed into the lives of others, simply because we do not and cannot walk in the blessing because blessing is blocked from our lives. We don't recognize we're blessed, and we have trouble walking in the blessing. I want to chat, but we've begun talking about attitudes that can release blessing in our lives. And yesterday we talked about the attitude of honoring your health, physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. Today I want to talk about another attitude that releases blessing into our lives. And that attitude is the attitude of moral living. And I know that some of you just sort of tuned me out at that because saying, oh, Pastor Jay, we don't want any of your old-fashioned morality. We don't want to talk about that sin thing. And okay, but here's the truth. Every one of us has consciences, and our consciences dictate a morality for us. They dictate a way that we feel we should live. We all have a morality that is hardwired inside of us, whether we want to accept that or not. And for the most part, that morality is a Christian morality. It's based in biblical thinking. And there are those who deny that and say, oh my goodness, I'm not a Christian and I don't want to be a Christian and whatnot. But even still, the morality that we seem to be born with, we know the difference between right and wrong. And most of that right and wrong is built around those 10 commandments that we see in the Old Testament. Everybody accepts that being untruthful, for instance, telling lies, whether or not the situation is justified, there's guilt that goes along with that. Everybody in the world pretty much accepts that we should not be going around murdering people. So one of the things that we have to come to terms with is the fact that violating our inner conscience, that inner voice that tells us the difference between right and wrong, blocks blessing. So if we want to release blessing, we have to come back to responding to that inner voice of right and wrong. We have to begin responding to that inner sense of justice that is inside of us, and we have to allow that voice to guide us. That's what I mean by moral living. When we violate our conscience, we shut down blessing. And when we follow our conscience, we unlock blessing. There's something about right living that causes us to walk in the way of blessing. When our consciences are clear, when we are free from guilt, then we are able to walk in the middle of that blessing. We have a sense in those moments that we are able to receive blessing because our consciences are clear. I don't understand how all this works spiritually, but I do know that our consciences and our ability to walk or feel like we can walk or receive blessing are inextricably tied together. So if you have been blocking the blessing by violating your conscience, what do you have to do? Well, you have to make amends. You have to seek forgiveness, and you have to go out and you have to make right what you feel you've done wrong. If you've wronged somebody and that's violating your conscience, apologize. If you have taken something that didn't belong to you, for instance, return it. Every one of us has in our closet one of those, or in our shed, one of those things that we borrowed from a neighbor and never gave it back. Well, that violates our conscience and often blocks us from being able to walk in the blessing. Return it. If somebody gave you something and you never wrote them a thank you note, write it. It doesn't matter if it was 4 years ago or 10 years ago. Do the right thing, right? Ask forgiveness. Return the stolen item. Thank somebody who deserves thanks. Return love. Return goodness for goodness. If you've done something wrong to somebody who's done nothing but good for you, stop it and turn around and start being good to them. So what you will notice is that as you begin to obey your conscience, as you begin to follow that inner voice, and as you begin to embrace your sense of inner justice, you will release the blessing in your life. All right. Have a great day. Bye now.